Well, my name is Darren Giuliani, and I've lived in Big Pine for over 35 years now. And I've always had an interest in natural history. My favorite subject is animal behavior. So on my own, I began studying insects and animal behavior and distributions of animals in the area. And then I came across the White Mountain Research Station and began meeting people studying some of the same things I was. So then when this project started up here, I wanted to be in on it. It's so stimulating to be among people that are studying things in nature. And what I like is that most of them are all studying it because of their own personal interest in the subject. So each year, now that the Gloria week is each year, I come up here just to sit in. I stay up here for the whole week. I'm retired now. I used to do biological field work, but I retired from all paid field work so that I can follow my own projects.
Great. And your interests span all the way from animal behavior to insects. That's quite a range.
Yeah, a little bit of everything I pick up on, although certain subjects interest me more than others.
And having had that long career in biology and working out here, you must be approaching status of a real naturalist.
Well, I like to think, some people think I am, but I can see it over the years. I still have learned so little compared to all that's here that I would have to live several lifetimes just to get started.
So what's special about working at high elevations? Why do you gravitate here?
Well, I've studied things in all habitats, even in Death Valley and desert basins as well as mountains. But more and more, I've got attached to the high elevations. And I think one reason for that was when I first came here, every place I visited was a separate spot. And so then pretty soon there was a collection of separated spots. But then when I get up high, I can see a lot of those spots from up high, and it ties them all together. So they become one place instead of several isolated spots. And so by now, this whole area is one place for me where the center is White Mountain, the summit of White Mountain Peak. So that's how it came about.
Yeah. To somebody that hasn't been here before, it looks like a very hard scrabble place, hard place for living things to make a living.
Well, most of them are very specialized. There's no struggle for them to live up here because they're adapted to it.
Lots of strategies for coping with the cold and the dry.
Yeah.
So climate change has become a very big issue, and this is a special place for climate change research now. Do you see a big role for the station here? And
yes.
Yeah.
I talked to I hadn't seen many of them before. The fellow who came over from Europe and he kind of organized all of this. I asked him about it, and he said there's about 50 Gloria stations now around the world, and they're growing. So virtually all the continents except Africa. Nothing has started yet in Africa, but everywhere else, it's really a going project. So that, like here, there's people from all over the world coming by.
Yeah.
That's what I like to see.
Have you seen changes in the weather that might be attributable to a change in climate?
It's always difficult because there's always so many local fluctuations going on and local patterns. But see, one thing I did find that fits that scenario so well is I started about 35 years ago monitoring a population, monitoring the chipmunks up the Bristlecone Road from about 4,000 feet up to 9,000 feet. Try to do that once a year. And I took a more detailed census starting about 1979, and I've just recently looked at all the figures I had, and it was interesting to find that if I took all the counts of the golden mantled ground squirrel from year to year and arranged all the localities where I always put down a locality in my notes wherever I see each one, put them all into elevations, then I found that if I express the number seen below 8,000 feet as a percentage of the total for that year, and plot that on a graph for each year, 79 to the present, it starts up around 50% of them were seen below 8,000 feet. Now it's only down to about 2%. So they're moving up. They're not coming down as low as they used to be.
Suggesting perhaps it's getting they're feeling it's getting warmer. Move higher to match their strategies.
So that's the only definite thing that seems to fit that pattern so well. It started at about 50%, then dropped down to about 15 to 20, 25%, and stayed there for a while. And then the last 4 or 5 years, it's just dropped right down to almost nothing now. Now, whether that could be a local phenomenon and will change and they'll go back to the way they used to be, I don't know. But it seems unlikely. It looks like something's going on, you know. This global warming idea seems to fit that better than any other idea I can think of.
So this station has a lot of long-term data records, a lot that you've taken and that others have taken. That's getting to be quite a valuable multidisciplinary
There's always been a tendency not to do long-term studies. People do maybe 1 or 2 year study, and then they write their paper. And they act like they know all about the species of animal after they've done that. But what alerted me to that's not really very wise is that a friend of mine studied a population of chipmunks near Monterey for over 20 years. And I could take her data and I could select at random any consecutive 5-year period and come up with a different idea about the life history of that species. So there's a lot more going on. They don't do the same thing every year. It keeps changing and altering. And the ones I've been monitoring, the chipmunk that lives in the Pinyon Pine Zone, I've been working with those now for 35 years, and I still don't know what they're going to do next. Very frustrating at times, but then that's what I like about nature. I like it to be that way.
Still not very predictable, vague and fuzzy.
They have so much potential in them, and you don't know what they're going to do next. You only get to see a little bit at a time, and then for all practical purposes, still an infinite more ahead to try to look into.
Right. So this bringing together of scientists from various disciplines in a place like this, you see a lot of value in that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's always been traditional among scientists to, all over the world, to be in communication with one another. And like during the time, the problems we had politically and the rest with Russia, a lot of American scientists have tried to correspond with Russian scientists on common projects. The FBI would be on them right away. So, and then the internet started. It was really started primarily by scientists to communicate with one another. And I hope it's going to go back and get depoliticized so that. But that's what I really like this. To me, this is part of civilization at its best. And I just hope that the whole world gradually moves to treating each other the way all these people treat each other.
It's always collegial and a lot of interchange of ideas.
For each other, and if there's disagreements, they just discuss it. They doesn't turn into violent arguments or anything.
A lot of widely diverse disciplines here. Have find an astronomer talking to an insect specialist.
Yeah.
Those kinds of things.
Well, the reason I come up here and hang out up here for the whole week each time is that it's so stimulating. Each person has their own approach to what they're studying. And so the exchange of ideas, I just like to sit in and listen to it, ask questions. I used to live in the San Francisco Bay Area. That's where I grew up. And there you've got Berkeley, a university town. And I used to go over there a lot and sit in on seminars and lectures and so forth. And moving over here, there wasn't anything like that here. And this fulfills that need that I have for that kind of thing.
It's like a little UC Berkeley at 10,000 feet here.
It is.
Yeah. In the climate change arena, it seems like the news is all bad. One catastrophe piled on another.
Well, everybody has their ideas and theories, and the media likes to blow things up bigger than has really been found yet.
Yeah.
But I think what it is, what I've gathered so far to the present day, is that it's pretty well agreed on now that some kind of global warming is taking place. But where the controversy is whether how much of that is caused by man and how much is natural. And it's probably going to be decades before they can ever figure that out. You need an awful lot of data to figure that out.
And maybe some of the young folks are getting the idea that this is the end of the world. We've ruined the earth now. Finally.
Yeah, I think some people feel that way. I get depressed at times the way the world is going. Sometimes I'm actually kind of glad sometimes that I haven't had any children, because I wouldn't know how to prepare a child for the way the world seems to be going.
Yeah. Do you see any hope in it, though?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's something in human beings that I see in everybody that can rise above all this strife that goes on.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just hoping that eventually, maybe through education, or maybe now more and more people all over the world can communicate with one another. So that to me is a hopeful sign.
Yeah. You've worked with a lot of students, I imagine, over the years, graduate students and undergrads alike.
I learn best by being in the field with people. So anytime I can meet a specialist, whether it's entomology or botany or anything, if I can go out now and then in the field with them, I learn a lot from that person.
And do you think that there's some possibility that the younger generation might kind of rise to the occasion and sort of take on this climate change business as something they can do something about?
I think a lot will.
Yeah.
But it kind of worries me that, especially the younger generation, they're all keyed toward recreation. Being amused, like watching things on TV and just trivial things. And that kind of worries me, that they're not really going into serious stuff very much. They just want to be entertained all the time.
You see that as a trend in recent years? Yeah.
So that to me is the negative side. If it goes too far that way, then it doesn't look like there will be any hope.
Yeah.
But that's why I hope they can get more young people into programs like this and see what scientists are actually doing. Not just see TV versions of what they're doing, but what they're actually doing.
Right. The long hours learning all the plants and animals.
And the interest. I mean, I've never understood how a human mind can exist without being stimulated by all the nature around us. Just plain curiosity by itself and nothing else should lead people to make that part of their life. So why people get so wrapped up and spend their whole lives away from that, I don't understand that.
Yeah. I wonder if there's ways that we can tempt them to come out to a place like this.
Well, I think if they could get kids more away from television. It's the young year. All the animals I've ever worked with, there's certain age limits as they're growing. that they have to learn certain things within those ages. And if they miss it during those age periods, then all the opportunity you give them, they'll never become very good at it.
Right.
And I think that's true with people.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of guidance that's necessary from the parents and the adults for children.
There's been a lot of talk lately about getting the kids back out in the woods,
Yeah.
curing the nature deficit disorder.
You know what I really, you know what I
Yeah.
really like to see more than anything else, talking about families and what they do with their children, is that when I go out hiking up in the wilderness areas, for example, you see a couple going along, backpacking, and they got their little infant on their back.
Uh-huh.
And that little kid is soaking up everything that's going on around him. And to me, that's essential education going on right there. I just wish that could be done more. You get all these millions of kids growing up deep in cities, and they're not getting any of that.
Yeah, never slept on the ground or...
Well, just, I think we're filled with mechanisms that respond to the natural world. The clouds, the way it forms clouds, like the sound of water that takes, the wind blowing in the trees, all of those things. I think we have mechanisms that respond to those things.
Uh-huh.
And in the cities, kids don't get that.
And so they're substituting things that come out of the screen, the
Yeah,
video
they see
games and
pictures
the
of things rather
TVs.
than
And,
the thing itself. They
Yeah.
learn how to, at school, they learn how to categorize things and learn the names of things and the values that are placed on them before they ever see the thing itself.
right.
And that's just the reverse of the way all other animals learn.
Right. So if a young person or any person happens to be watching this now, turn off the screen and get out there.
Get out there and find something really interesting in nature and then follow it.
Uh-huh.
Find what is basically meaningful to you and then just follow that wherever it leads you.
And that's what you've done. You've followed things
I always
for,
have,
for a
yeah.
long term. I think that's kind of rare, but it's been very rewarding for you, I can tell.
Oh, it has, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Well, I cannot stop myself from doing that.